Let's get into, of course, the strategic reserve. It is a reality. We'll break it down for you guys. This is going to be a good one because I think as you understand what's going on with Bitcoin and the strategic reserve, because it's something that we haven't mentioned much, today is going to be a good one, so don't miss it. I want to thank our sponsor today, and of course, that is Uphold. If you are holding crypto right now and not earning rewards, you're essentially leaving money on the table. And the reality is, in today's market, you need to be able to move instantly. That's why Uphold's flexible staking is such a game changer. You can earn weekly rewards automatically on assets you already hold without a lockup. That's most important. You can sell anytime. It's the perfect setup for anyone who wants to grow their holdings without losing their exit strategy. Download the Uphold app today and try it for yourself. So let's go over to this tweet right here, because this gets into the point that we're getting at today, and that is Bitcoin reclaiming 64K. This, of course, is after the White House confirmed that the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve would happen, and crypto, of course, our crypto president says he's a big fan. Crazy stuff out there right now. This is the point they're getting to, which is where the U.S. government is actively structuring a Bitcoin strategic reserve and digital asset stockpile. Both of these will be the case. We'll talk about that in a second. And the U.S. already holds 328,000 Bitcoin. So a pretty significant holding in general. One other point I want to look at here, of course, many people would look at this right now more of a roadblock. I would agree with what Coin Bureau is saying here. Treasury officials, though, have questioned whether or not they have the legal authority to be able to even hold this. So now you've got the administration, the White House saying, okay, well, maybe we would consider moving the reserve over to the Commerce Department. Remember, that is Howard Lutnick. So let's just remember, Howard Lutnick, not great reputation out there, but he definitely would be the one that potentially could be in control of this. So that in itself could cause a little bit of grief out there within the market. Another thing that you have to kind of consider is this right here. All of this is pretty much bureaucratic noise, not bearish signal. The fact that the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel is actively working on means they're actually building a structure. So this means they're going to do it. They just don't know how they're going to put it together, but they're trying to build the structure right now. The release of this information has caused Bitcoin to move. Now, does it put Bitcoin on the move up to 67K or 70K? Some analysts still saying this might be a short pump before we see some other problems toward the summer. And I think the real question is, what is this going to look like? Because everybody's asking, how is this going to be done? How will it hold? Will they add anything to it? Or is it strictly going to be seized assets? All of that is now under consideration. Peter Schiff, though, continuing to push on this. Remember, very anti-crypto and very anti-Bitcoin. And he's talking about Trump's crypto donors likely called in a favor to get Trump to tease this of potentially allowing Trump accounts to buy Bitcoin. And we'll talk about that in a second, because I don't know if that's going to happen. That would be a big hurdle to overcome. And I think this would be a problem if we got into that, because just in general, I think the Democrats would push back dramatically. I think Republicans would probably push back on that as well, mainly because you're talking about 401ks. And this is 401ks that are being really built for children. So this would be a problem, I think, overall. There is a clip here from Scott Melker that talks about this and his opinion. Take a look.
A headline that people will grab and be like, we're getting Bitcoin into Trump accounts. We literally can't. It would require basically an act of Congress. They could do, broad indexing ETFs and certain things, but that's not happening.
Yeah, spot Bitcoin in those accounts isn't going to happen. Whether or not, ETF wrapped Bitcoin is another part of the conversation.
What you heard Scott mention right there is that I agree with Scott in the sense I don't think there's any chance that they put it into the Trump accounts, because that would take Congress to be able to enact that. But I think the bigger picture here is the strategic reserve. Whether or not you really believe that the U.S. government would be actively going out and acquiring Bitcoin, I don't think that would happen, at least not right now. Now, maybe down the road when Bitcoin and crypto in general starts to get ingrained into the social fabric of America, maybe possibly. But even right now, I mean, in most cases, we don't see these kind of strategies around anything other than something like this, which has been a commodity asset that has been seized, much like gold, silver, things of that nature. So I would still put it on the sense that I don't think they're going to add to the strategic reserve. I think they will continue to pile on based on acquisitions and seizures, but I don't think it's going to be done through American taxpayers getting it. So for Bitcoiners out there, yes, it's good news in the sense that they're not selling it. That's a good thing because they're holding over 300,000 of them. But the other thing that gets into this is how would this play or even correlate to the Trump account? Let me take a look at this clip.
That sounds like classic Bitcoin to me. This is largely a momentum-driven market. Narratives are very powerful. And so, yeah, we saw the initial comments from the president about having Bitcoin potentially in the Trump accounts. And so the market clearly took that as a positive.
Right.
The way that I'd interpret that is investors saying, okay, there's one more type of potential buyer here. Now we have Trump accounts. First we had mainstream buyers through ETFs. Right. And so the crypto market loves narratives, and any kind of fuel to that fire you can add will kind of give you a rally in most days.
All right, so you see Main Street going into this and looking at this as a possibility. I completely disagree with this. Something like this, I think, unfortunately, this is too early of an asset class. Now, I know many of you would just say, well, that's the whole point. You want to get in early. I get that. But I think when you're looking at something that is supposed to be a more stable investment, especially when you look at 401ks, I think you've got to go with the traditional models that Wall Street has been serving on and performing for quite some time. So I would say probably not likely. Now, could it happen in the future? Sure. As we see a more stable crypto market develop, and it's coming, it is coming, guys, then there will be a handful of tokens that would probably be blue chip enough to make it into something like this. We're already seeing this right now in other asset classes. So whether or not this happens with crypto, it's still up in the air. I would say pause on that. Here, and when you think about that, you have to look at other things that are going to destabilize the market. And one, of course, is going to be clarity. James Seyfert right here from Bloomberg, he kind of hits it on the head. Headlines like this means clarity is not getting done. And that I agree with if we continue to see pressure on the ethics issue, especially around what Trump is doing in terms of crypto. And whether you want to say, okay, he's not investing directly, the fact that he's associated with it is still, guys, it's optics. It's optics that many of Democrats and Republicans are going to have to face because of their constituents. And remember, retail crypto has not seen these kind of gains. So this is clearly a situation where he's one-upping the market right now. And that's the problem. And of course, right here, you got Donald Trump reportedly booked more crypto-related income last year than any publicly traded U.S. digital asset company, including Coinbase, which is the king of crypto right now, at least in terms of revenue and earnings. So I don't know. This is a bad look in general. Look at the rest of the market. Absolutely not having it in terms of performance. Galaxy in there, Hut 8, Core Scientific, even Iron. So this is a problem, I think, and a narrative that is not going away, and it will most likely affect clarity. You have the SEC, though, coming in to rewrite the rule book for crypto, and rightly so, because if clarity does not go through, we had an analyst on from Standard Chartered yesterday, and he hit it on the head, is that most likely this is going to be the SEC and the CFTC setting down the bureaucratic guidelines for crypto. That's pretty much going to be the way it goes right now, at least the way it looks like it's going to go, with the issue of ethics continuing to face a problem here with the Trump campaign and administration. You have 67 million Americans now that people are calling a fringe. And the reality of this is that is the number of people that are owning crypto. Harris poll over 45,000 Americans, 10,000 U.S. crypto holders. It's headline finding 1 in 4 adults now owns cryptocurrency. So that's a huge deal, guys. 67 million people. Absolutely insane here. And the political poll also found that the same 45% of Americans view crypto as risky, but those same investors and holders view the stock market as risky as well. So it's interesting how all of this is kind of playing out in real time. The opportunity for you guys is, we all know, is we're early in these markets. You look at Bitcoin trading right now at 64K. You look at the high of 125 plus and the opportunity here of tokenization. All of this is still very early on, and I think it's all going to be in a very strategic model that eventually will span across many presidencies for the next, decade or two. BNY CEO Robin Vince says BNY is going to be partnering with the U.S. Treasury, Robinhood, to make Trump accounts happen. That, I think, is still a good thing in the sense that we've got major Wall Street investment framework to be able to get these done. We'll see how this pans out. I don't think that crypto is a good model for this just yet, just because of the narratives right now. And also, I think we don't need the smoke. If you think about crypto in general, if something goes wrong for whatever reason, most crypto investors understand how to fade that heat. I don't know that a 401k holder for someone's, kid's future is going to be able to understand that. So a big deal. Don't forget, Ripple selected BNY to custody Ripple USD. So BNY is very familiar with the markets and very familiar with crypto in general. Doesn't mean that there could be something signaling here, but it definitely shows you that BNY is very active for maybe involving themselves in this in the future when it does get into a point where crypto might play a role. Speaking of others that are going to involve themselves in the future, and that is Vanguard, who initially hated the idea of ETFs. Now they're one of the largest ETF managers. Vanguard initially hated crypto, and yes, that's right. Vanguard is now hiring their first ever head of digital asset role for a full strategic pivot. This is a big deal. For Vanguard to make a full pitch. Remember, we've reported this on this show and reported where Vanguard pretty much laughed in the face of all investors out there saying this was not going to be something that Vanguard or their investors would ever do. That has changed. When you look at Vanguard and their pivot, look at what Robinhood did. They embraced the idea. Imagine where Vanguard would be had they gone this direction. And in terms of it, just embracing what's happening with the ability for tokenization. Robinhood chain, of course, absolutely exploding. And I think we're going to see so much more of this in a very short period of time. Remember, because I think a lot of people look at crypto down right now because it's mostly been assets and liquidity rotating into AI. Well, AI spending concerns now are spooking investors. And I think this is something to keep a very close eye on, because as we go into what could be a slow summer, the real question is, do we get a dip before the next step? Tom Lee has talked about this. When you look at Samsung's record, this of course, 89 trillion in Korean won, 58 billion US dollars, quarterly profit on the chip boom, and yet shares are sliding. So is that where investors are finally getting to the point, maybe this is it for the AI bubble? And I don't know, let me know in the comments down below if you guys think that we're going to continue to see an up market, especially in the correlated AI market, whether it's stocks, semiconductors, companies like Micron, et cetera, within that. More drama that also plays into this is what's going on in the energy side of things. And of course, one of the things that is applicable to that is what's going on in the Strait. And right now, the UK is saying that there's a second hit on ships inside the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, that has continued to move oil higher. This is another problem that, even though it looks as though it's been a little bit less covered, the real fact is this continues to put pressure on the macro environment, and that will have an effect on stocks and crypto in general. One other thing I want to get to is the Fed minutes are now coming out. So you got them due on Wednesday. A lot of hawkish moves right now. And of course, Warsh's deliberate silence. Very interesting here. A couple of points I want to focus on. Markets will parse them not as a gloss on Warsh's already stated views, but as FOMC's only substantive on-record statement about whether or not September rate hike is coming. I don't know. I don't think that we're going to see a rate hike. I'm feeling that that is going to be the case. But if we don't see inflation at least stabilize, I think this is going to be an issue that Warsh is going to have to deal with. And the distinction matters enormously right now. It should matter to anyone holding AI infrastructure. I agree. And especially around data centers and so on. Any of the hyperscalers, all of those, really a big issue, I think, on how the rate cuts could and or not occur for 2026. The Fed also injecting $10 billion into the economy. Not a lot, but the fact that they are pulling the trigger on an injection from the Federal Reserve. They're going to do 2 Treasury bill purchase operations, which is $3.3 billion on Tuesday and another $6.6 on Thursday. Not a big hit, but it does show the tolerance of the Fed to be able to move on this. Does that mean that we have a printer coming? Maybe, if we continue to see pressure in the macro side and what we're seeing right now in terms of the possibility of what we could see in terms of a rate hike. If you look at the poly market, this is the all-time chance. It is up a lot in terms of a rate hike in 2026. So be on the lookout, guys. This is not out of the woods just yet. And this would decimate crypto in general, even though right now, as you look at the market, I'll just go in and just run down some of the top ones. Here's Bitcoin. That's almost a week of green candles right here as we currently trade at around 64. Look at what's going on with Solana trading at 82 and stabilizing. Another token to take a look at is Uniswap. This is one that has just recently started to move. I think this is one, we just talked about this yesterday. You guys should go back and watch the video we did yesterday on where ETH and Uniswap is heading. And then the real question is what's going to happen with Jupiter? Jupiter continually showing performance. This is all a sign. Are we in a position right now where it's early stage of potentially a market breakdown? Do we see that 20% pullback? And if a rate cut is incoming, that's a problem for the market. We're going to be covering this and a lot more this week, so stay tuned. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.